Ah, yes, back in Texas again, where it's nice and hot. The heat index today is 109 degrees, and man, I sure do miss Canada. It was nice and cool there. But it's time for another review. Now, if you remember, Akaso came out with the original V50, and then they came out with the V50 Pro, which was a very good seller for them. And then they came out with the V50 Elite, which I wasn't really impressed with. I didn't like the stuttering that happened at 4K 60. I definitely did not like the color profile at all because it was really saturated in green, and I didn't think the image stabilization was that good. But now we're going to look at the Akaso V50X, and that's coming right up. So yes, Akaso's come out with a brand new action camera. This one is the V50X, 4K 30 frames per second. Does not offer 4K 60, but you know that's okay because it's budget minded. It's under $100 and it has a lot of nice features to it. It has a different feel. It has a rubberized feel to the outside of the case. But the neat thing is that it offers electronic image stabilization at every resolution, whether you're at 4K 30, 2.7K, 2K 60, 2K 30, 1080p 90, 1080p 60, 1080p 30. I think you kind of get the idea. So I'm just walking around with this in my hand. We're going to do a quick little audio test. I'm approximately about 1.5 feet away from the camera right now. So a quick little audio test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you a couple of different resolutions. First, we're going to do 4K 30 frames per second with EIS off, and then with it on. Then 2.7K, 2K, then 1080p, just to see how they look. In the bottom left-hand corner, I'll put what the bit rate is for every resolution so that you can kind of determine for yourself. And at the end, I'll do a comparison. I'll compare the V50 original, the V50 Pro, and the new V50X, 4K 30 frames per second with EIS on, all side by side on a board together to see image quality, image stabilization. We'll do an audio test. And something else that's really neat about this camera, it offers wide dynamic range with EIS on. Now, if you turn EIS on and you happen to turn on distortion correction, it still turns off the EIS. So keep that in mind. So if you want a distortion-free image, you're going to have to use the gimbal. And then also I want to test out the H.265 codec to see does it work on this V50X, because after 2 different V50 Pros, they never worked. So we'll see. But let's take a look at that footage right now. EIS off. EIS on. .7K, 30 frames per second, EIS on. .2K, 30 frames per second, EIS on. .1080p, 30 frames per second, EIS on. This is 4K, 30 frames per second at H.265 video file. We'll see if this actually works. and what the resolution video quality looks like with this type of compression. Zoom in all the way in. That's 4x zoom. And now zooming all the way back out. Just hand holding this, walking around. On the back of the screen, I see a little bit of purple fringing, and there is a little bit of a delay in what you see, but that just could be the electronic image stabilization. All right, going to do a comparison of the three Akasos, the original V50, the Akaso V50 Pro, and the Akaso V50 X. So a quick little audio test. We're going to start with the Akaso V50. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the Akaso V50 Pro. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now the new Akaso V50 X. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let's just do a little walk around the pool and see what the image quality looks like and also stabilization. Now what I'm going to do a little roll access. 1, 2, 3, and now a tilt, and a little pan jiggle to see how the stabilization works. And then while we're at it, let's do a little bit of pixel peeping between the three. Let's see, that's a nice sunlight there on the yellow flowers. Let's hold this still. So now I'm real curious to stick these in the computer and see how they looked as far as image quality, stabilization. Now I can tell you, without even sticking it in the computer, looking at the back screen of the V50X, during the roll axis, the tilt, and the pan axis, the back screen hardly had any movement. The others had a lot of movement, but I have to stick it in a computer just to see how dramatic that it was. But let's take a look at that now. So what's my verdict on the Akaso V50X? Do I like it? Do I not? I think it's a big improvement over the V50 Pro when it comes to image stabilization. You know, the color profile of a camera is very subjective. What I like, you may not like, and vice versa. So I'm going to kind of leave that up to you because I'm really curious, what are your impressions of the Akaso V50X? Do you like it? Comment below, kind of tell me your thoughts on it. Now, like I said, I think the image stabilization is very nice. A lot of pros about this camera is the image stabilization. The fact that it comes with 2 batteries, which is very nice, and they're 1350 milliamp hour batteries, comes with a charger, comes with a remote. By the way, I couldn't get the remote to work with mine, but that's okay. Comes with a lot of accessories. Comes with a nice 1/4 on the bottom so that you can mount it to a tripod, which is kind of the norm now. When you think about just a couple of years ago, everybody was begging action camera companies, please put a 1/4 on the bottom so that we can mount it up to a tripod. They've listened, they've improved the image stabilization. Now when you look at the comparison between the V50, the original, the V50 Pro, and now this V50X, you see a difference in the color. You see a pretty big, massive difference in the electronic image stabilization where, you know, the V50, when it first came out, by the way, I'm just going to back up a little bit. When it first came out, the electronic image stabilization for that was very good at the time because our expectations were not that great because electronic image stabilization was still in its infancy, basically, when it comes to action cameras. So it wasn't that bad. But now when you look, you see that little wobbling effect. It's pretty prominent on the V50 Pro when you see it wobble. When you see the test even though on the back screen of the V50X, it looked very, very stable. It's like it gave more electronic image stabilization on the screen than what actually got recorded onto the SD card, because looking back, I can see the little wobbles. It's not as prominent as the other two cameras, but it's still there. It's not a GoPro Hero 7 Black, and it's definitely not the Osmo Action, but it's not bad when you consider that it's under $100 for a native 4K. Speaking of native 4K, Akaso would not tell me what the chipset or what the sensor is in this. I did a little bit of digging online, and I saw one post where they said it was a Sony sensor but didn't know which one it was. Somebody had said that it is the Umbrella chipset that's in this, although can't confirm it, don't even know which one it is. I personally think that it's an all-winner, and I'll tell you why. Because when I made that little comment about the purple fringing in the trees, if you look at this image with the purple fringing, this is very synonymous with the all-winner chipset. You get a lot of purple fringing, and it's just something about that chipset, at least in my experience from a lot of the action cameras that I've reviewed in the past. When you think about doing the zoom on the side over here, you click up or click down to zoom back out. It's a digital zoom, so the more that you zoom in, the more deteriorated that the image becomes. A lot of pros, I like the feel of it. It's got that rubberized plastic feel, and it's not as heavy as the V50 Pro. It's a little bit narrower, so it's not as wide as the V50 Pro, but it feels good in your hand. I like the fact that the lens does not bubble out as far as the original V50, because what happens is when the glass starts to bubble out that far, you start getting a lot of lens flare or glare that will hit at just an angle. I mean, if you get a 45 to 60 degree angle sunlight or light hitting on the edge of that glass, you get flare in your image. If you remember my original V50 Pro, that the electronic image stabilization did not work, and then I got the second one to replace it, and the electronic image stabilization was working on that one. There was a little con, and I don't know if we can get this to focus or not, where you can see it, but there's little bubbles. And yes, the film has been taken off the back screen, but there's still little bubbles that are underneath the touchscreen on this one. Now, speaking of touchscreen, I will say the touchscreen is super responsive. Nice little layout on the user interface on this one. You know, all in all, and I have to take the GoPro Hero 7 Black and the Osmo Action out of the equation, because we're talking about a budget 4K camera. But on a budget-minded person that wants to get a native 4K camera, especially under $100, I've got to give this one 2 thumbs up, even though its major con to me was the audio. The audio is very muffled, especially when you compare it to the V50 and the V50 Pro. The V50 Pro to me had the best audio hands down, but maybe a firmware update. Now, I am very skeptical, and it's not a bash against Akaso, but I'm very skeptical about their firmware updates, because their firmware updates have bricked a camera before for me. And then they said, oh, well, it depends on what version. Version what? Version 3, version 8 of the V50 Pro? So, I mean, all in all, I like the camera. I'll put a product link in the description below so that you can check it out for yourself. Also, a little newsflash update for you. If you don't already know, I'll put it in my little community tab, and I'll put a link right up here so that you can check out the new channel. I started up a new channel. I've called it Worth It or Not Vlogs for right now. I don't know if that's going to be an appropriate name or not, but you know, I know that this is a review channel, and there's a lot of content, because I've got 2 other channels that I put up content that is totally different than what product reviews are. But I wanted to be able to put up some creative content that's different, vlog style, some of the vacation stuff that I do. I definitely wanted to do live streams. I was thinking about doing live streams on this channel, but I thought, you know, this channel needs to stay revolved around product reviews. and I don't need to mix and match. And if you've seen some of my other videos on this channel, I have put some family vlog videos in, and it takes away from what you, the viewers, are looking for. You're not looking at this channel as a vlog channel. You're looking at this channel as a product review channel. So I wanted to start up another channel for it to kind of be creative. I mean, I thought about calling it Andre Vlogs or my full first and last name, and I'm still kind of debating, and I just simply just put it as Worth It or Not Vlogs for right now. But if you like, check out the channel, subscribe if you'd like to that new channel, and instead of doing live streams here on this channel, I'm going to do the live streams on that other channel where I'll talk about products, I'll talk about companies, whether it's Akaso or GoPro, and like GoPro's audio adapter brick that they've been out of stock for the last 5 months. But kind of just a little back and forth. And if you do subscribe and you do click on the bell, I will set notifications up to where when I do a live stream, I will notify you 24 hours in advance the live stream is coming up, so that you can set a reminder. And I'd love to interact with you. I'd love to chat with you if you got questions. If you know, really no questions are out of bounds unless they get like crazy personal, but you know, I would definitely appreciate it. And back to the Akaso V50X. For the money, budget-minded person, good camera. Hopefully an audio update will come where they boost up the audio, because there's nothing in the menu system where you can increase the microphone volume. But that's really the one big con about this. Personally, for me, I don't like the purple fringing around the trees, but you know, hey, you can't have everything when you're on a budget. Very glad to see that the H.265 actually does work on this camera, and it still gives a surprisingly good image quality. So that's it for the Akaso V50X. I hope you guys have yourself a great day. Remember, if you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing and click on the bell so that you're notified every time I upload a video. And until the next video, I'll talk to you later. Bye.